And what a privilege and pleasure it is to be with you today. Good morning. Are you happy to be here? You know that one of the reasons that we are here is because of God's grace giving us the ability to enjoy good health, to even in our brokenness, because as was prayed in the prayer this morning, many of us have physical issues. But even as we are broken, we can enjoy a wholeness in Jesus. And today we're going to emphasize in a little brief nugget the importance of air. And as you sit where you find yourselves, I would deeply encourage you to breathe in and out deeply. You know it's going to be a little while before you get up to walk around again. So breathe in and out. Make sure those lungs are moving. It was an exciting day. There was a rush of air that whipped past their faces. It was invigorating. It didn't matter to them that the temperature was close to freezing. Orville was guiding the first controlled flight, and his brother Wilbur was running alongside the wing of the flying machine. It was December 17, 1903. And the Wright brothers made the first of 4 short but historic flights. What a moment that was. And many of you have been on aeroplanes, and I don't know if you do what I do as I sit in those huge aeroplanes and think to myself, what an amazing thing that these big pieces of metal with people inside it and everybody's luggage can take off. And the reason that it can do that is because of a component and a physical factor which is called lift. That lift is imparted by the air, and without that, flight could never take place, not for birds, not for aeroplanes. And of course, without air, that precious commodity, none of us would be alive. Those early flight experiences kindle an unusual excitement in my own heart, but in contrast, there are some other events related to the air which are very worrying. Shortly after midnight, on December 3, 1984, in the city of Bhopal, India, a poisonous gas cloud escaped uncontrolled out of a pesticide factory. The toxic gases covered vast areas, 30 square miles, immediately killing thousands of people and causing illness for many more for many years to come. This is the result of environmental air pollution that ensued then and that happens often to us. Clean air, the air that we breathe, the ability to breathe deeply in and out. While you sleep at night, I want to ask you the question, how many of you have actually concentrated and said to yourself, I must remember to breathe? Anybody had to do that? It happens automatically. We are fearfully and wonderfully made. The air is a mixture of various gases, including oxygen, carbon dioxide, and nitrogen, in various proportions that are very helpful. As the lungs expand, as you breathe in, oxygen comes in and it releases the life-giving oxygen in the body, and the body at any time carries almost 2 liters of oxygen. During an average day, we exchange 20,000 liters of air as we breathe in and out. Each person, 20,000 liters of air. And if you try not to, you'll soon realize that it's not in your control. Once the oxygen gets into the lungs, there's an exchange which takes place on these beautifully crafted and designed lungs that allows the oxygen to get into the bloodstream and then get carried to every part of the body. And then when it gets to the various tissues, it helps the body to do its functions, produce energy, and nourish every single tissue and every cell. They are wonderfully designed. And you know, the surface area that is housed inside your chest of the lungs. So if you were to take the lungs and you were to open them out and spread them flat, they would cover the size of a tennis court. That is to show us how wonderfully we've been designed. There are special centers in the brain which automatically regulate your breathing so that you don't have to think about it. The only thing you can have to look for is your cell phone or your keys or that sort of thing. You don't have to remember to breathe because you are fearfully and wonderfully made. And if you try, and I wouldn't urge you to do it, but if you want to test it, you can try and hold your breath. So if you breathe in and hold it, after a while you are going to be forced to breathe again because there's a wonderful mechanism working on the levels of oxygen and carbon dioxide to help you realize that you need to breathe without thinking. You know that if breathing stops, everything gets into trouble. And just within 4 minutes of no breathing, the delicate tissues of the brain, those sensitive, wonderful computer cells, begin to die. That illustrates the very significant importance of regular breathing, of breathing in and out, of also trying to breathe the cleanest possible air that you can. And that's perhaps why the American Lung Association's motto is that breathing is a matter of life and breath. As we breathe, it provides our bodies with that wonderful mechanism, that wonderful fuel to energize our lives. And in exercise, the body requires more oxygen, and the lungs are able to acclimatize to that and provide more oxygen by the wonderful receptors that are in our body, helping us to realize that we need to breathe more. You may have noticed that when people are resting and sleeping, sometimes you can hear your spouse sleeping. About 10 miles down the road, you can hear your spouse sleeping. You know, I've told my wife that I am sure that I do not snore. And she says, "How can you be so sure?" I said, "Because I've never heard it." But, you know, it's the others who hear it. It's the others who know. But when people are sleeping, the respiratory rate, the breathing slows down, because everything slows down, because sleep is a regenerating rest. Now, it's very important to try and get high-quality, fresh air. Don't skimp on the quality. Open the windows. Now, living as we do, sometimes in cities, often in cities, seeing the motor vehicles which are providing all the pollutants, it's difficult to find fresh air. But the more chance you get that you can make to get outdoors, particularly in the great open air, it's good for you to breathe God's fresh, beautiful air. Because of the wonderful mechanisms in our lungs, there are special little hairs that sweep out, that trap the particles. And you know, we're told that there is so much air pollution that gives rise to many different conditions, including cancer, including decreased cognitive function. We need to realize that we need to be careful about the environments in which we live. Fresh air is often destroyed, and one of the major destructive components to fresh air is tobacco smoke, something that we should avoid at all costs, not only inhaling it ourselves firsthand, but because of the second-hand smoke, which has been proved to be so significantly dangerous. The trees, nature, green plants have been termed the lungs of the air and of the earth. And it's so important to cherish and nurture that environment, to get out into that environment, to enjoy it and to breathe it. Fresh air, when it's unpolluted, is absolutely invigorating. You may notice how invigorated you will feel after being in the water, swimming, the sea. It's a wonderful, special privilege, and it definitely enhances your health. Air has many protective qualities. On a global level, the earth is suspended water vapor so that it protects the earth and the inhabitants from the solar radiation. Air is vital. Air and the atmosphere form a protective envelope, and we are so blessed as humans that we can enjoy optimal health because God has provided every component of the recipe to best health, and air is one of them. Of course, you know where all the pollution is. We've talked about that, causing all the various problems and sicknesses that arise from it. And you know, it's estimated, and I want you to think for a moment of this statistic, that 6 million people, mostly children, die each year from acute lung infections. And many of those are because of the air pollution that we see. We have opportunity to work as advocates. We have opportunity to share this understanding, help people to know that homes should be well ventilated, cooking should not take place over open fires, and we have a duty to share this good message of good health in every area we find ourselves, be it in villages, be it in the city, be it everywhere. We know that God has given us a very special gift. He's given us this gift in the gift of fresh air. He's given us the opportunity to take advantage of His goodness. He's given us the ability to breathe deeply in and out. He's given us the strength to exercise. He's given us the willpower and the choice to be able to turn away from habits like smoking and other things which damage the internal environment and the external environments in which we live. And just as really as the air surrounds the earth, so the atmosphere of God's grace surrounds each of our lives every day. We have the opportunity to give glory to Him, to take care of this wonderful body He's given us, to remember by our posture, by our breathing, by our resting, by our choices, to make use of the air that He has given us. I'm going to invite you, as you contemplate the revelation of hope you're going to hear about even a little later in more depth, to make a conscious decision that this body that has been given you, entrusted to you, is something you will take care of to the glory and honor of God, so that you may spend eternity one day with Him, having been of service and joy in everything that you do. May God bless you to that end.